Bad form is harming your gains and you may not even realize that you're doing it. But don't stress. I'll teach you the easy fix to this problem. Starting with my number one tip, film your workouts. Maybe not every exercise, but the movements that you feel might be problematic, get them in. And in my opinion, that must include the big three, in addition to overhead press and weighted pull-ups. But any big, heavy compound movement where proper form is a must-have for injury prevention and maximizing gains, you want to get those clips in, because unless you've seen yourself on video, you have no idea what's going on. Even the gym mirror won't tell you the whole story. You're only seeing one angle in that case. You got to get the front, the rear, the side, and the diagonal, because the video is objective. Once you see that, you can calibrate accordingly, either by hiring a strength coach or just fixing things yourself, because that's certainly doable as well. Like, I can tell you from years of making workout videos for you guys, it's not only benefited you, but it's helped me too. Because I see exactly what my form looks like. Like, I didn't even realize that I had an imbalance on the pull-ups. I pull more on my left side. A little bit of spine twisting. Same thing for OHP. My grip width was a little bit off. When I would bench, I would notice that I wouldn't be perfectly centered. It'd always be a little bit more to the side. Left side would come up a little bit quicker too. For lower body training, same exact thing. I could see the imbalances. It becomes so easy to spot when you're filming every single angle. And had I never done this, maybe I would have gotten snapped up by now. So getting that feedback is so important, because sometimes you don't even feel that there's a problem. You think everything's good. You don't feel a goddamn thing until the video shows you that the form is off. That's why everybody who's serious about strength training, taking their gains to the ultimate level, needs to know what they look like. So I'd recommend you start an Instagram account. Just post for yourself. You can leave it private, or just film on your cell phone. Doesn't have to be anything crazy, nothing high quality, but at least get the footage in. Now, once you know you have a problem and you've seen the exercises that need correcting, it's time to address them. What I'm gonna say is this, for a very basic piece of advice: drop the weight 30% and build your way back up. Oftentimes, it's a case of ego, not improper teaching. I think the strength training community has come a long way in teaching exercises. And it's really not that difficult to learn the fundamental movements. Like, there's a lot of great channels out there. On the bench press, that's gonna mean no bouncy reps. Start pausing, drop the weight, build back up. Don't worry about where you are right now, because ultimately you're benefiting in the long run. And by dropping down that weight, you'll relearn the proper movement pattern, because if you're constantly ego lifting, you're only strengthening the neural pathways associated with that bad movement. You need to stop right away, and in many cases, it's just recording yourself, dropping the weight 30% and building back up. Like, that is very basic advice. So try that first. But now I'm gonna get into more specific stuff. This is the stuff that you wanna hear. Like, don't close the video now, right? Too many guys are overly obsessed with mobility drills, which is not a bad thing per se. I'm all for injury prevention. You can see my whole playlist on it, but it's not what's gonna fix bad form when you're lifting heavy ass weights. The reason why you see muscles giving out during the exercise is because they're weak. You're simply identifying a weak link within that compound movement. If your back is constantly rounding during deadlifts, it's not that you have to relearn the deadlift. It's not that you have to start doing 135 instead of 405. No, you need to increase the volume for the lower back and the abs. You need to start doing more posterior chain work as a whole. You have to up the good mornings. You have to make your spinal erectors so fucking strong that they're not gonna break down during the exercise. That's what's going on. If you max out and muscle groups give out, that's the weakness. It's in your face. And mobility drills do not correct muscular weaknesses in that way. It can often be helpful for recovery and making sure that your form is perfect. But if your form breaks down when you're actually putting the effort, it's not due to mobility in most cases. It's just muscular weaknesses. That means you should emphasize the volume work and take your assistance movements very seriously. The more minimalist you train, the more of these weaknesses you're gonna see pop up. And it's not until you fix what's actually going on that the form will automatically fix itself. And that's real talk, if you actually know how to do the exercise. That'll bring me on to my next point. If you really want to get some technique work in with the compound movement, just start doing some speed work. It's as simple as that. So for your conventional deadlifts, try 15 to 20 sets of one. Do a 3-week wave, 50, 55, 60 with 25% band tension. You're never gonna have form breakdown. You'll be in an intermediate zone, and you'll be teaching yourself how to move explosively with correct form. You combine that with what I told you at the beginning of this video, not ego lifting, and you're freaking flying. Fixing your muscular weaknesses and inverting the setup. Higher sets, lower repetitions, but not going crazy with the loads either. So if you want to talk about refining your technique in a way that's ego friendly while still getting lots of volume in, that's what you want. Speed work could be done on most exercises. The big three, overhead press, hell, even pull-ups. Give it a shot and you'll notice that the form breakdown does not occur because it's low fatigue. Your form's not gonna go to garbage unless the percentages are completely off. Then the final thing that I'm gonna tell you is to stay away from complete failure. That's what you see in many cases. Rep work to the point where you're completely exhausted. You're creating more fatigue for something that's not really necessary. I would say reserve failure for the moments that count. So if you're doing a 5x5, maybe your last 2 sets should be the failure, and not because you chose to be that way, just so you can get the reps in and then move on to something else. But ideally, it should be no failure or very minimal. And same thing for max effort method, though that can technically teach you what your weaknesses are. So it can be used as a training tool, but I would say it's not necessary, okay? Understand that fatigue leads to form breakdown, and form breakdown leads to injuries, as well as teaching false movement patterns. So if you do a 10 rep max overhead press and your last 3 reps, you're constantly teaching yourself to do this, you know? Or your form just turns to complete garbage because you're trying to get the weight up through any means possible. Well, that's obviously not good. So you fix this by not going to complete failure. What about your bench press? If you have to bounce it to get a few more reps in, I don't think that's a good idea. Or you got to flare your elbows out completely to the side because maybe you're a little bit more strong. But now you're straining your shoulders, getting snapped up in the process. That's what I'm saying, man. And this especially applies to deadlifts. I really dislike high repetitions, unless it's an RDL or a good morning. I say that's where you do your hypertrophy work. But if you're going to do a conventional deadlift from multiple sets to failure, bro, to me, you're really playing with fire there. And you're creating so much fatigue that your recovery is never going to be maximized. So the way that I see it, if you want to fix your fucking form, minimize the failure. Simple as that. And that's all there is to it, man. Everything that I told you today works together. It's all synergistic, and I guarantee you that it's going to fix the problem. And that's all I got for you today. There's more tips that I could provide. Let me know if you want to see those. And with that said, I wish you the best of gains. Let's train in a safe and smart way.